Right. So I wanted to ask about some of the feedback that we've been getting.
Yes.
I think we spoke mostly about the positive
We
feedback.
did. Yeah.
Yes.
But in anything you're doing, I think one of the things for me about doing this was a consciousness of the fact that we're putting ourselves out there
Yeah.
and the exposure that brings. And some of it is positive, but some of it is... I mean, I remember the first episode where I spoke about my experience in South Africa.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of viewers who didn't take quite kindly to it and said, "Oh, she's lying." Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
But I think people might have misunderstood the context, because I was speaking about something that happened in 2001, which is about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's funny because somebody in the comment section jumped to my defense and actually said, why would she lie about that experience? Notice it's her experience.
Yeah.
Plus, it's the context of what happened in South Africa at that time. And assuming that it might be young people in their 20s who are thinking about the context of South Africa now.
Mm-hmm.
And so not being able to make sense of what I was saying, which happened 20 years ago. We were born in 1999, Shiro, but 20 years ago sounds like a long time.
Very long time.
But just wanted to find out, has there been any drawbacks for you guys? Any sort of anything that's felt like some bad-mindedness, some...
That's a good question.
To be honest, the only feedback I have got so far has been positive.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's been positive. And I think some of it is down to this lovely podcast room.
Ooh.
For some reason, it's such a lovely ambience, isn't it? Yeah. And a lot of the comments that I've got is, wow, this is so professional.
Yeah.
And someone even asked me, do you have a makeup artist? And I just laughed. I just thought, really? What makeup are you talking about? Because I only just, I've barely wore any makeup, and so there's something about the this lovely room
Studio.
as well, the studio, and I think one thing that a number of people have commented about is the humor, but also us being quite authentic.
Yeah.
So there's that, us being ourselves, really. Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's... Oh, sorry, Rose, I cut you there.
And I was going to say, the banter, it's having conversations.
Yeah.
And it's something that people have appreciated from the feedback I've got.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I've had negative feedback. Maybe some feedback that's been like, oh, maybe you should consider doing this, food for thought. But sometimes it's funny because some of the viewpoints that have been said is from people that actually don't or have a podcast. So not to say anything or knocking them at all, but it's kind of like, oh, so you're talking from experience. But it's so sometimes it's about measuring, okay, I know it's coming from a place of love, and it can come across as a little bit critical, but otherwise I've not taken anything to be negative. I mean, we just started out, and I think the only way is up, and we're going to get better and better each time.
Definitely.
But I do feel like, I've not really experienced that negative comments as such. There's been maybe some slight criticisms or some, oh, do this or do that, but end of the day, it's what works for us. And like you said, Rose, we are authentic and we're not scripted, so it's just we're just running with the flow. Like I almost just cut you off a minute ago, but it's just vibing with the flow, and I like the fact that we are authentic and we are genuine.
You're right, and that's the whole thing about once you step out to do anything, all of a sudden everybody becomes expert. And want to give you advice about I think you should do this, I think you should do that, I think you should feature that person. It's like, did I ask for your opinion? We actually paid to get consultation on this, so and we also got some additional consultation recently. So all along the way we've been asking, checking in, asking the experts, because I think it's one of the things that we should think about. Like, obviously, I think coming into this, there are people who said, oh, I wanted to start a podcast. How did you go about it? And sometimes it can feel like once you step out and do something, then other people think, oh, I should do that as well. And you have to always think, is it really that you want to do it, or you're just thinking because somebody else has done it, you want to do it? And I think sometimes that makes you a little bit wary because you're thinking, where those comments coming from, you know? And I think with anything that you do, there are always people in your circle that you kind of assume are gonna support. Sometimes the support don't always come from those people.
It's true.
And I think sometimes those things can be a bit disappointing because those expectations that, okay, people in your circle or your sphere of influence are going to celebrate you, are going to be the ones to share it, are going to be the ones to comment, are going to be the ones to like it. And it has been some of our friends and family that are supported, but sometimes you don't see the support coming from places that you expect. And what do you do in that instance, Rose?
I think people have got, it's not something that I'm going to take unkindly or negatively, because they've got their prerogative to, if they're not, what if someone's not interested in podcasts or, you know, watching and listening to podcasts? Is that something that I'm going to push down their throats? No. So it's about choice, really. I'm not going to really I'm not going to take offense because someone has not watched or has not commented.
I take offense.
You take offense. I knew you would say that. I was waiting for that.
I don't mean serious offense. Like the day when I was talking to my nephew and I was like, nephew, have you subscribed?
Channel your inner Anita. That's going to be the phrase. Definitely. I think for me, I kind of get it. I see people are busy lives and so forth. I have taken a new stance. So like, for example, if we're within, like, I'm out with friends and we're talking about stuff, I'm like, oh, did you know that? I've got a podcast. Oh, let me just show you. And that was inspiration from yourself, Anita. Because before I would just mention it or send out like a broadcast message and then see what it'll be. But the fact of like just saying, oh, actually, do you want to just have a quick, as you're here, do you want to subscribe? Or, you know, and it makes me laugh.
Twisting people's arms.
I can just see Anita in the background, like saying, yes, and make sure they log on the phone on and watch it with them. And we laugh about it, but it also made me reevaluate. Like, I got some friends that are on YouTube that have their channels, and other friends that are podcasters as well. And it made me think about, I have watched 1 or 2 episodes, but I haven't always been consistent. And now doing it myself, and obviously we're doing it, it made you realise actually
the importance of supporting others.
Absolutely.
And that's true. I find that when you're doing this, it's kind of when you appreciate what it means to support other people.
Definitely.
Because you have your own thing going on. And you find that a lot of the times people that support you are people who have things going on as well. You know? And like I said, I remember before doing this, I thought, oh my gosh, am I really going to do this? Sit in front of a camera. People can actually see you, hear your voice, know you. And it feels exposing. It's like you're putting yourself out there and not knowing what are people going to say. What's the feedback going to be? And Rose, how did you overcome that fear?
Oh, I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress, I must say, because with me, I've often been so self-conscious, and I remember attending a training where we had to be videoed and to watch how we present. And to this day, I've never watched that.
Oh my God.
That was, So for me, just coming and I've just had to be brave and just say, you know what, let me do it. And it's still work in progress, but yeah.
And do you now enjoy watching back the episodes?
I do. It's funny because Rose, you mentioned about not like looking at yourself. I remember back previously, I never used to like the sound of my voice. Like right now, when I'm talking, I hear a completely different tone and pitch. Wow. And then when I used to hear it back, I'm like, who's this? Like, who's taken my words? And then you realise, actually, that's what you sound like. And it was actually advice from yourself saying, look in the mirror, keep on talking, get you used to that voice. And you have a beautiful voice. And just getting used to that and it becoming something that you sit comfortably with. And that helped me to prepare coming and see myself on the big screen. For example, when my friend put up the podcast on at one of her events and I saw myself on the screen, the old me would have been like, oh my goodness, like cringy, oh gosh. But I stood there proudly, like, yes, all the hard work we put in. Think about the hours that we put into this. It wasn't just a 2-second thing. It's been a long time coming. And the fact that we've always said it and to see it live and kicking and in colour, it's like, yes, we've did this and it's worth it. So why not?
Can I just comment on, I think it's, for me, I think I have changed my mindset now. There was this imposter syndrome, but now I'm thinking, actually, I've got a lot to share.
A lot, yes.
And why not make good use of this forum? Why not? So I think there's something about, I've got to be more present. I've got to be more present. Visible. I've got to be more visible. And I've got to, and more so as well, from about, if I can do it, then anyone can do it. And more, being that role model to my own children as well. I just thought, let me be more, let me be brave and more adventurous.
Absolutely.
The writers are as bold as a lion. It definitely takes boldness and confidence to be able to step out of yourself and to say, I'm going to do something like this. And I think if years ago somebody said to me, you're going to do a podcast, I'd be like, are you mad?
I know.
And where I write a blog, I think my sister-in-law said to me about 2 or so years ago, why don't you set up a YouTube video where you sit and talk once a week about the blog? And in my head, I thought, nah. But where this was going to be the three of us, it made it a lot easier because it felt like I'm not on my own doing this. And I think I shared with you guys earlier that I read an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And I think there's something about having somebody else in your corner that you're doing this journey with that makes it easy. There are a lot of things that we can do by ourselves, and I've talked to people before about doing business and they've said, nah, I'm not doing it with people. And I can appreciate that because there are times when there are a lot of breakdown in business relationships, or sometimes people say don't mix business and pleasure kind of thing. But for me, I think what has helped in this has been having somebody else, having other people around me to be able to create that push. As much as I come across confident and there are things that I can be really self-sufficient around, I think knowing that I'm on this journey with other people where we're pulling ideas, we're pulling resources, it really does help. And it means that there's somebody that I'm sharing the vision and the idea with. So even though I have a vision and I'm writing it down and I'm sharing it with you guys and we're executing it together, it's really made a difference for me. So don't know if you guys want to add anything to that. Look at Shirelle.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Shirelle is
that's so nice.
Shirelle is well pleased.
That's not, you put it very eloquently.
Very.
So the question is, Rose, what are you looking forward to in 2025?
Wow. As this just reminds me of a pastor I listened to very recently said the need for us to expand our territories, to strengthen the stakes and expand our tents. And that really, really struck a chord with me because it's just, the world is our oyster.
Yes,
we have got to really see where this takes us. And it's about striving to how can I put it? Striving to do bigger things, basically. Don't limit. We are not limiting ourselves. Amen. We should not limit ourselves. Let's expand our territories.
Wow.
And my mantra this year is to move from glory to glory. It goes from strength to strength. Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And Rose just radiates when she's saying that, Cheryl. It's like there's this light coming up of you that says, yes, I'm going to go from glory to glory.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And it just reminds me of, I remember I had this head of service who used to say that, your job should not only be the one and all. Always do something, outside of work. Yeah. And we also had another service manager who used to tell us, you need to, especially myself, Rose, your LinkedIn is
Oh, you mean your team manager?
Yes. It's embarrassing. You need to do something about it. And this year, for me, it's going to be about being more present.
Yeah.
And really putting myself out there.
Yep. What do you have to lose?
Yeah. What do I have to lose?
I'm
definitely
looking forward to no longer feeling like I'm an imposter. Keeping the imposter syndrome in 2024, that's gone. I deserve to be in these spaces and to progress and grow in these spaces. So whether it means speaking engagements, whether it means more independency, going out there lecturing, teaching, training, and also even maybe putting together events. Listen, I'm thinking big ladies. I'm taking you both with me on this journey.
Definitely.
But definitely no more imposter. Nothing. There's no limit now. Without a doubt, and just being open to all those opportunities.
I look forward to 2025. I feel like 2024 was laying the foundation.
Absolutely.
And then this is a year to really pivot. I think what we did between, it looks September is when people saw it. But we spent all of 2024 working on this, laying that foundation. And so this year for me is expansion, is establishment, is going further. I think, like I said, it's, obviously I've become an associate with RIP. I'm doing different things. And it's also looking at other influencers out there who I see have made that transition from full-time to just doing their full-time business, becoming a full-time influencer, launching a coaching business, establishing that consultancy. And I think for me, it's that thing about, but who are we not to? Who are we not to? And I think the limitations that often people have are in their minds. I don't think I've ever had imposter syndrome. Which can't be that. I can't. It's never been my worry. I mean, there have been times in the past where, similar to you, I'd probably watch myself back and come and think, who the hell is that? But maybe because I've had some of those opportunities, I wouldn't say a lot, but some of those opportunities earlier in life, I think I got to a point where I got really used to the idea of being on camera. And as well, being married to a musician who's always out there in the media and stuff, and sometimes doing shows and performances, having them recorded, having to watch back, I become a bit comfortable with that. But even then, like I said, I don't think I would have done it by myself. So it's made it a lot easier having both of you to do it with, because that's really helped. But I think it's for me, in 2025, is taking the limits off, daring to dreaming big, seeing the sky as the limit, and pursuing it. And there have been people who've walked up to us and said, boy, you're such an inspiration, to see you guys doing what you're doing, because sometimes you can be in the 9-to-5 job and feel limited in terms of showing up in spaces where you get pushed back, or you sometimes don't get those promotions that you put yourself forward for, or sometimes not feeling like you're invited to that table. And I've said to people, let's build our own table. Let's build our own little empire, And I think for me, it's for most of our colleagues, Black and brown colleagues who sometimes worry about being in organizational settings where there's discrimination or disparity, or just challenges. And I'll say to people, step out. We can create our own existence. we can create the life that we want. And like I said, there are people that I keep watching and I'm thinking, okay, you've been doing this 2 years, you've been doing this 4 years. How do I learn from you? No competition, by the way, because when you start to compete, that's when you're shooting yourself in the leg. But there are people that I draw inspiration from and I think I can learn from and emulate while we create our own brand that people are also admiring, and making sure that whatever we do, we're inspiring other people.
Yeah.
How are we helping people? So how we even came up with the idea around well-being. It's thinking about us working in professions where there's such a high rate of burnout.
Yeah.
I think post-COVID, there's been so much concern around health and emotional well-being, especially mental well-being, and thinking about how we support people around their well-being, you know, and so thinking about that vision and that drive that we have. So, Rose, what are some of your favorite things, and what can people look forward to in 2025 from us in terms of... Don't tell them everything that we plan.
Okay.
Don't tell them everything
the
that's to come.
secrets. No.
But what are some of the ideas that we have for 2025 that people should look forward to seeing?
I think there's going to be a lot more collaboration with other people.
Yes.
And we'll have a number of guest speakers.
Yes.
So look out, people, look out. And also we're thinking of an event.
Yes.
Having an event at the end of the year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Our first well-being event.
Yeah. So watch this space is what I would say.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Any other thoughts, ideas from you about what's next?
See, I've got so many ideas, but I don't want to give too much away to our listeners.
Okay.
But what I will say is continue joining this journey with us, because you're going to see a lot more, definitely, in season 2.
Yeah, and similar to what everybody has said, the buzzword for us in 2025 is collaboration. But they're collaborations and they're collaborators. And it's a question of who do we want to collaborate with? So being a well-being podcast, we are focused on sponsors that promote emotional well-being. We do have a value base around faith and spirituality. Yeah. So it's thinking about collaborating with people who align with those values and those goals. And also thinking about, you know, what do people bring to the brand? So we are social work trained. I know when we sat down to plan this podcast, we said, we don't want to sit around and talk about Section 47. No disrespect to social workers, but gosh, can be a bit dreary. And we will talk to some social work educators throughout the year. So there's some inspirational people that we have lined up who are going to talk about their journeys. And I think one of the threads that we want to keep in this podcast is the theme of inspiration. Yes. So we had one guest in 2024, Jared, and where he spoke about business and success from a male perspective, hearing about his journey, I think a lot of people found quite inspirational. I think most people thought that was their favorite episode, Shiro.
Yes.
I think it's because you spoke less.
Rose, I was gonna bang her with a
Oh gosh. But I think what you're also saying is like social work is the foundation, and although we have had a guest that was social work led, he had expanded from that. And I think what we're trying to kind of say to our listeners is that yes, we'll have guest speakers. They may have a social work background or may not, but there'll be more to them that meets the eye.
Yeah, definitely.
And we'll hear about people's stories and journeys.
Absolutely.
I think it's one of the things that we want to keep this year is the authenticity that we bring.
Yes.
The fact that we don't come scripted. So we don't have a teleprompter.
No, we don't.
We don't have a list of questions.
No, we don't.
It's a free flow conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's more natural and it's authentic. And what you're seeing is our relationship.
Yeah.
It works, and because we relate well with each other, and the fact that we like to talk. Shirelle admitted you like to talk.
No comment.
Then it makes the podcast work and us being able to have conversations. But like I said, we're all trained social workers. We're social work supervisors. We train the future generation of social workers. So it's difficult for us to sit and the conversations about social work not come up.
Yeah.
but it's not a social work podcast where we're going to sit and talk about social work law, policy, legislation, and tell you about cases. And we're not dissing it, but it's not that. This is about promoting emotional well-being. Why? Because we've seen the high burnout rates in social work. We've seen the high turnover rates. And we want to think about how we help and support people to promote emotional well-being, but also keeping within that line of inspiration. So I know the first episode, a lecturer reached out to us about wanting to share it with students starting their first year in a university and just feeling like our journey with it. I didn't think that episode would inspire people. I mean, what did you think, Rose?
I think it's because a number of people have asked questions about, social work. How do I get into social work? And hearing social workers talk about how they got to what led to their getting to what they're doing now, and how they got there, speaking about their journey, I think that's really inspirational.
Navigating that. Anything else?
I'll just add to that you don't have to necessarily come from a social working background to be following this journey with us. Where we're talking about well-being and lifestyle, it goes far-reaching outside of social work, and that's why I think the emphasis of it not being a social work podcast was to kind of emphasize that yes, you can come from any areas, any disciplines, anything like that, and just come on this journey with us.
And we have people lined up who are not social workers.
Yes, we do for season 2.
People lined up who are in entertainment, in finance,
accountancy,
people in education, one or two people in social work, but also people in well-being, whether it's nutrition or not giving too much away, people, but people who we know in our circle who are inspirational, movers and shakers, and they're people who we haven't spoken to yet, but in the back of our minds we have them on our list as people that we want to bring on board to sit and share their stories. And like I said, I think that's one of the themes for us, that when we do sit with people, it's wanting to hear about their stories. Because I think that's what inspires people more than anything. Definitely. Is wanting to find out, well, Rose, how did you get there? How did you manage? What helped you to overcome? And how did you navigate? So I have another question for people. So Rose, what's been a major learning curve for you in this journey? What would you say if somebody asked you for advice about wanting to step out and be bold and do something like a podcast? What advice would you give them? Or what is one or two major things that you've learned?
I think for me the default for me in the past has been fear. And fear has kind of limited me. So for me it's about having that courage, being brave to step out and try something new. Having that courage.
So that would be your advice.
I think it's my advice is to be courageous, to try out new things. Out new things.
Be courageous. What would be your advice, Cheryl?
There's a lot of things going in my mind right now, but I'm thinking the main one would be confidence. I think when I think about it, you could have no understanding of something, but if you're confident, that's what people remember. And being impressionable. I definitely feel like if I just sat here and I was just like, okay, hi guys, welcome, it'd be like, oh, do we really want to be here? But I'm bringing myself, authenticity. I'm very bubbly, and I just feel like confidence and just having the vibes, I would say.
I think I read something once. It must have been Richard Branson who said, if you get asked to do something and you don't know how to do it, say yes and then go do the research and figure out how to do it.
Makes sense.
And I remember when, our manager kind of dropped that comment in the office and said, you guys should do a podcast. And we went, We did not have a clue.
No.
None of us have a family member who's done a podcast. Nope. I think Cheryl probably has friends who've done podcasts. But none of us have ever been in a podcast room before.
No.
But it didn't deter us. What we did was we went away, did the homework, did the research, paid for the consultation, got the information, did the planning, prayed some more, and then we executed. And it took us a long time. It took us about a year and a half of planning. But for us, it was saying, okay, we may not know how to, but there are people out there who know how to. And that's the thing that, you talk about, Rose, where fear can be so limiting. The fear of the unknown, but that can keep people trapped.
It's true.
And I'd say to people, if you have an idea, even if you don't, because most times people I think, but how am I going to do that? We didn't know how to, but we just stepped out on faith, did the research, and carried forward. And if anything, it gives me confidence to say, well, if I could do this, I could do other things. It's taking that step of faith. I mean, I think there's this saying that says, most times we want to see the whole staircase. And sometimes if you step out first, it's like God will illuminate your path. But most times we're so afraid that we want to hold back. I think my other advice would be to take other people along. That most journeys are better off when they're people that go along with you. But also, when you're taking people along, be selective of who you're taking along.
Okay.
Consider personality types. Consider how you work well with people. What's going to be a good mix. I always look at people and think, could I live with you? Could I really live with you? And if I look at you and I think I couldn't, then there's no point, is it? I need to know that your core values are similar to mine, and it's like the Bible says, can two walk together unless they agree? And there are times when you see people forcing themselves into relationships and partnerships that don't work. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. And people sometimes force relationships out of the need to fit in, the need to belong, or not wanting to feel isolated. And it's like, but it doesn't fit. So why if I have to force it, then it's not going to work. I'm wasting time. So I'd say to people, be bold. Be courageous. Step out and take people along with you.
That's nice. I like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And in terms of lessons learned, is there anything you would have done differently, Rose? Anything that you learned that you thought, next time around, I'd probably do that differently? Or we would have done differently?
To be honest, I can't think of anything that we could have done differently aside from, why didn't we think about this 2 years ago? I think there's something about, it's all part of the journey, in that whatever we do informs, whether it's something that we can learn from, so it's all stepping stones. So I can't think of something that, I wish I'd not done that, because I have learned from every aspect of what we have done so far.
Wow.
It's been, for me, it has been those stepping stones that are going to take me higher and higher to something else.
I like that.
Wow, amazing.
I like that.
Yeah.
You, Sherelle, anything you'd have done differently?
Just being comfortable, because I think you'll notice there's times I keep on shifting and moving around, so making sure I'm comfortable before recording so I don't move around too much, and just knowing yourself as well, I'd say. I think we'll definitely do that more. So now we've got used to and knowing what podcasting is, and we're hopeful that we'll see the difference in it, but just continue that confidence, and listening to each other, but definitely being comfortable will be my doing
authentic self. I would probably tell myself to panic less. There were crunch points where I think I probably panicked a bit, got really flustered, got really anxious, and some of that is my needing to get things done. A bit of me.
So like task orientated, isn't it?
Sherelle Wilson Morrison,
could you let me speak? I'm just asking a question.
Yeah, I think sometimes I'd probably, if I had it to, but hindsight is foresight. Like, you never know.
Yeah.
And I think with anything, so I'm not beating myself up too much, is what I'm saying.
Good.
But I would probably have panicked less, because, like I said, there were times when members of our production team were unwell or things weren't going according to plan. And and you're thinking, oh my gosh, and it's kind of, I had to find stillness in those moments. And when I was able to be still and to just pray and to focus, I found that everything was all right in the end. And it happened when it was supposed to have happened. It happened when it was supposed, even though we wanted to, for it to happen before. It all felt like it was God's perfect timing.
And not leaning on our own understanding.
Anyone has a final thought before we wrap up and tell our viewers to go like, share, comment, and subscribe?
I like that.
Any of you have a final thought?
I'm looking forward to season 2. Season 1 was beautiful.
That's fine.
But season 2, one to watch for.
Yeah. And I enjoy watching the episodes. Not out of vanity. I think sometimes listening back to some of the madness that we've said to each other on camera, or just some of the laughs, or the times when Rose says something and then she's in stitches from what she said, like the episode where she was talking about sleep.
Oh,
and then Rose
endorphins. Couldn't get the word.
So, but I am looking forward to this journey.
Absolutely.
I'm comfortable in this space, and just as part of the ending, want to say thanks to our viewers.
Thank you, viewers.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for all the people who've supported, shared, and do continue to like, share, comment, and subscribe.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.